name is Alfred Mugendi Kanga. I am an ordained clergy of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, a former DSG, actually is an immediate former DSG. For the next 14 days, I will not be immediate former, I will be now former. And I'm currently serving at PCA Kenyatta Road Church in the Rireka Presbytery. And I'm glad to be here in this interview. Okay, thank you, Chris. I think the procedure and the process of the GA officers election is anchored well in our Constitution chapter 10, clause 10.6, that gives the mandate the business committee to nominate one person in every office who will be elected once the General Assembly convenes. It is important to note that what we'll be doing is not election, but nomination. So what happens is that the business committee sit down 5 months to the election or to the GA or to the GAC, and they select an ad hoc committee that go to the church data of the ordained ministers and are able to select about 10 qualified persons as per the qualifications in the Constitution to the office that is vacant, whether it's for the moderator or for the Secretary General or for the Honorary Treasurer or for the Deputy. So once the business committee convenes and they get an ad hoc committee, the committee goes and get those people and take back to the business committee. Remember, in this scenario, the business committee is a nomination committee of the General Assembly. So when the names are taken to the business committee, and the business committee goes through the names, and they are comfortable with their character, they are comfortable with how they conduct themselves, those names are taken to the electoral college. This is now the presbyteries. So the presbyteries are given the names, and the presbytery conduct election through secret ballot. The winner in every presbytery becomes the sole nominee of that presbytery. So the names are taken back to the business committee, and the business committee convenes and do the tallying, and they see the person who has the most votes. So the winner in all the presbyteries, after the vote have been tallied, becomes the moderator-elect or the deputy secretary general-elect. This means that he has been nominated for election when the General Assembly convenes or the GAC committee convenes. So the process that the business committee conduct is not election, but the nomination awaiting for election when the business comes in 2 weeks' time. This is now the General Assembly. So when the General Assembly convenes, at that point is where now the business committee will present the sole nominee name to the General Assembly for election. That's how it is done, and it is well put in our Constitution, chapter 10, from clause 10.6 downwards. Everything is in black and white in that chapter. So to speak, yes, there are campaigns. Although according to our practice and procedure, we are not supposed to do any campaign for any position, but someone feels indebted to tell somebody that, you know, I am studying for this position. Please, when you see my name, I would seek favor from you. So ordinarily, campaign is not supposed to be done, but human being is a funny creature, because at one point you find him canvassing and trying to sell his ideologies out and trying to explain to other church members why you would stand a better person or a candidate than so and so. So in a nutshell, yes, campaigns are done, but they are not allowed. Actually, it's not very thorough, but it's actually trying to sell, to tell them who you are, so that when they see your name on the ballot, they'll be able to understand what kind of a person is this who has been floated by the business committee for nomination. All right. So sometimes it's actually trying to explain who you are, not a vigorous campaign transversing from one presbytery to another. It's just calling them and telling them, I'm so and so, I may be in the ballot, please, if you see my name, I would give you better services, so to speak. The day will be packed with a lot of people who will come to witness the installation of the new moderator. Actually, most of them come because they want to see how it is done. So what happens in that material day is that the General Assembly will be called to order, and after it is called to order, the moderator will take the assembly through confirming the minutes of the previous General Assembly. And once the minutes are confirmed, then the next agenda will be election and installation of the GA officers. So what happened at that point, the principal clerk, who is the Secretary General, will come and explain how the agenda will flow. And one of the agendas will be the installation of the moderator. And what happened at that point is that the principal clerk help the General Assembly to get an entirely moderator, either from the membership of the General Assembly or from one of the past moderators. Once the past moderator, the presiding moderator, either a past moderator or one senior minister, takes the position, then he allows the outgoing moderator to give his retirement speech. So once he has given a speech that he is retiring, after that he will be requested to hand over the gown and the clause. We call it the moderatorial gown and the moderatorial clause. So he goes in front of the presiding moderator and gives back the moderatorial gown and also gives back the moderatorial clause. And then after that, someone from the assembly pass vote of thanks to him. And once he is thanked, then the presiding moderator requests him to recess or to take leave from the General Assembly so that the election can be conducted. So once he get out of the assembly, the principal clerk, who is now the Secretary General, will come and take the General Assembly through the process of how they arrived to a sole nominee of the position of the moderator. So once the principal clerk says that the business committee has nominated so and so, the name is tabled to the presiding moderator, and then the presiding moderator will take the name and ask the General Assembly that the business committee has given us one sole nominee by the name so and so. Those people who are in favor of this name, can they stand and raise their hand? So the General Assembly will stand and raise their hand in favor of the candidate or the person that the nomination committee, who is the business committee, have presented to the General Assembly. So when the name is accepted, then it is assumed that now the person has been duly elected. Now you stop being the moderator-elect to now the elected moderator. So the moderator will have two members of the business committee go to pick him from the hiding place, because during this election process, he is not in the assembly. He is somewhere waiting the outcome, whether it is positive or negative. And ordinarily, it is always positive. So the two members will call him, then you'll be presented to the presiding moderator, and the moderator will tell him that this Honorable General Assembly has elected you, now not nominated, elected you as to the position of the moderator. Do you take the position? Then you say, yes, I do. After he says that, then the presiding moderator will take them through the oath of the office. And once he's done with the oath of the office, then you give him back, you give him the gown, the moderatorial gown, and then put him the moderatorial clause. After that, you give the acceptance speech that he has accepted the position that he has been given by the General Assembly. After that, then is now where you resume the position of the moderator and now continue with the election of the other officers, either the HT or the deputy or the Secretary General. If the term is for the Secretary General, you now conduct the election of the Secretary General and the HT. If it is for the deputy, then you go ahead in conducting the election of the HT. And the election will also follow the same format, where the person getting elected is not in the assembly. And the principal clerk presents the name, and then those in favor will raise their hand, and then he is taken as the elected, duly elected person to that position. Once the moderator is done with his term, he is referred to as the church father or the past moderator. And the position actually ordinarily is to provide the counsel to the General Assembly. So when he is there, he is actually the symbol of the church. He is actually representing the church father in himself. And he doesn't have a very specific role in the General Assembly. Apart from him, by virtue of his office, being a member of the General Assembly, time to time, the sitting moderator can request him to take the position of the moderator to run some sessions, because there are some sessions that the sitting moderator will have to report, and he cannot report when he's on the seat. So the past moderator is appointed to run those sessions. So basically, he helps the General Assembly by giving the counsel, and where the moderator wants to leave the office, he can hand over the seat at that particular time to run the business of that particular session as the sitting moderator deems fit for him and for the General Assembly. So it doesn't have actually a defined role, apart from being the church father and being a member of the assembly, and sometimes the moderator can call him to be able to run some sessions. Yes. For the continuing officers, there's a very slight difference between who is continuing and who is coming up afresh. We start with the Secretary General. If the Secretary General is continuing, he may not take the oath of office, but what the moderator does, he elects him, he guides the General Assembly to elect him as a principal clerk, the person who is supposed to run and the business of the General Assembly. So he is only elected as the principal clerk, but he does not actually take the oath of office because his term is one and he took the oath of office before. When you come to the moderator who is coming back the second time, sometimes he takes off the clothes only, but he remains with the gown. Because even after the office, he will still remain the church father, the moderator, the past moderator, who will be using the gown. So at that particular time, if he is continuing, he will only give the clothes, but the moderatorial gown, you remain with it. As he goes back to the vestry, or as he recesses from the General Assembly, he goes back with the gown. But if he is freshly coming in, he doesn't have a gown to return. He doesn't have a clothes to give out. So he will be given new gown and a new clothes from the presiding moderator. That is a slight difference of the moderator who is continuing does not hand over the gown. But who is coming afresh, he doesn't have the gown to hand over. So you'll be given fresh gown, a new clothes altogether. And actually the differences cannot be noted, is not notable to a lay person, unless when you are so keen, you can be able to say this is a slight difference between the one continuing and the one that has been there. Ordinarily, when your position is taken, you are done, so to speak. So once the new Deputy Secretary General is installed, then the immediate Deputy Secretary General now takes the leave of office. He is actually given, so to speak, a sabbatical leave. He can remain in the assembly if he so wish, or he can decide to take the leave immediately. But ordinarily we encourage them to remain because of some questions or some document may be required during the plenary. So ordinarily, once he hands over the file, he proceeds on for a leave until when he is deployed by the appointment committee, maybe in the month of June or October. Sometimes either 3 months or 4 months, you'll be back, you'll be deployed. But at that point, once he gives out the position, then that's it. Even the president, when the president has given over the mantle to the new president, what does he do? Copy paste. Yes. I don't understand why the crafters of the Constitution put the term of the Deputy Secretary General for 4 years. Yes, it is called a transitional office, in that there is no time that the office of the General Assembly will have new officers altogether. But I believe even if it was 6 months, 6 years, and then the time of election is staggered, then there is no time that they will come out the same. But however, because that is how the Constitution have it, the issue is that there is no time. The moral of the 4-year term is that there is no time that the General Assembly will have a vacuum, as in all officers are going and new are coming. Because he is elected, he leaves the office 2 years before the others. The other time he comes after 1 year after the new officers have come in. So there is no time that you have new officers altogether. So that's the purpose of him going for 4 term, for 4 years. But even if he went for 6 years, then it's only separating the time that they are getting elected, and you find there is no vacuum. But so as it is now, the crafters saw it fit for him to have 4 years to manage the transition, in that we will not have new officers together or at one given time. That, I think, is the reason why they thought it's good for them to separate the term of office. There is a committee that we call Appointment Committee that is chaired by the moderator of the General Assembly. It is the committee that determines where the office of the General Assembly is posted. However, most of the moderators, I've seen them consult the officer, trying to ask him, where would you want to serve? But the right to post and replace is reserved to the Appointment Committee that is chaired by the moderator, and the secretary is the Deputy Secretary General. The term may vary from, ordinarily it is, they are deployed in June, in July. And some are also deployed in the 1st of October. So it depends, but ordinarily they are given a leave, a sabbatical leave of maybe 3 to 4 months. Then after that, they resume duties in 1st of August or 1st of October, depending on what the Appointment Committee will feel best for them. Early retirement is a reserve of every employee in Kenya. Even you can even choose to retire at this particular time. But for ministers, it doesn't augur very well when you talk about early retirement, because the concept of our ministry is not applying the job and getting interview and actually getting placed. Our school of thought is a bit different, because we believe that we are called to the ministry. So being called and applying for jobs, sometimes they may differ. So that is why you find not very many ministers, when they are done with their term of office, they would opt for early retirement. However, if he decides to retire, then the presbytery, who is the employer at that particular time, not the head office. Because once you are deployed to a certain unit that falls under a certain presbytery. So you become an employee of that presbytery. So if you apply for early retirement, then I don't see why the presbytery cannot grant you. But ordinarily, they don't opt to retire when the age of retirement, that is 65, is there. Because actually the official retirement is at 60, but there is now the contractual engagement up to 65 years. So unless you are 65, not very many people who opt for retirement before that time. And the one I can remember, after he retired, he requested to be reinstated again up to 65. So the retirement age before 65 is not an enticing statement to the church employees. Yes, he can, if he is falling within the confines of the indent of that position. For instance, if you are a former Deputy Secretary General or a Secretary General, so to speak, and you have not hit more than 57, then you can vie for the position of the moderator. Because for you to be elected as a moderator, you should be 57 and below. So if you are 57 and below, and you have been holding an office before, the Constitution allows you to vie for that new position. If you are a former Deputy Secretary General and you are not above 50, then the Katiba allows you to go back and seek that position as far as you're within the confines of the flexible procedure and the requirement of that particular position. So you are allowed as far as you are falling within the limit of the requirement. When the General Assembly is not in session, there are two committees that work for and on their behalf. Because the General Assembly comes after 3 years, and the GAC comes after every year when we don't have the General Assembly. So there are two committees that the General Assembly put in place to work for and on their behalf until they meet again after 3 years. One of them is the General Assembly Committee that we call GAC, that meets yearly. So that committee is also put in place to run for a term of 3 years. The other committee that is inaugurated is the committee we call the Business Committee, that conducts the business of the church when the General Assembly is not sitting. So those two committees, the General Assembly Administrative Committee, the GAC, and the Business Committee are the only committees that are actually given the mandate to operate in absence when the GA is not in session. So to speak, I can say there are two. The GAC and the Business Committee are the ones that are inaugurated to run in a term of 3 years before the General Assembly meets again. I think the mood will be exciting, because some people will be excited that now they are going to have new officers of the General Assembly. Others will be saying, oh, the person that is getting out has not been serving as well. So we can say actually there will be mixed reaction because all of them cannot feel the same. Some will be excited, some will not be excited at all. And I believe until when the installation will over, that is when now the anxiety will start clearing, because some may think that there may be a problem that will arise during the installation, but those are assumptions. They have never come into play during the transition. But I believe that ordinarily there must be anxiety among many members of the many commissioners, because every presbytery will be having a minister and an elder. Almost 2/3 of the presbytery ministers and elders will be there. So I believe there will be anxiety, but after installation, you'll find now the calmness coming back slowly by slowly. And by the end of the day, we shall be able to achieve our objective. I think they are so important in that they are the face of the church as we go to now the international realm. Because if there is anything that the government wants with the church, they can only contact the GA officials, and they work hand in hand in making sure that the Mwananchi has been given services that they require. So I can say, apart from regulating the church in the grassroots, mashinani, kanisa mashinani, they must be regulated by the GA officials and the top governing body. So their major role is that they represent the church in international forums. They are also the link between the government and international bodies with the church, and also making sure that the church at the ground are following the regulations that are put by the church. Because you see, those church at the grassroots in the kule mashinani, they use one license of the church. So they have to protect the license by making sure that they are doing what appertains to their calling. So the purpose of the GA officials and the General Assembly is to regulate what is done in the ground, and to make sure that the Constitution is adhered to, and also the tradition and the Bible and the minutes, they are actually conforming to what is supposed to be done, and to make sure that they are giving a positive image to the international bodies for us to be able to run smoothly. So their major role is the link, and also managing, organizing, and supervising what you are doing at the grassroots. Not me alone, also the general public and so to speak the Presbyterian family, they have a lot of expectation to the coming GA officers, because one, we are looking at an office that will be able to bring the church together, to unite us, to become one family, because the Bible says where the family stays in unity, God's command blessing. So we would want to receive blessing from above as a family of PCA by the office of the General Assembly uniting each one of us to become one family. We are also expecting them to use the model that was used by the Margaret Thatcher when he became the Prime Minister of England. He said that being a lady is like, being a leader is like being a lady. You don't need to say if you are a lady. So what I want to allude by this is that we would expect a lot of result-oriented people, not actually the moderator or the Secretary General or the Deputy who is so much on speech. So we are expecting that we would want results, and especially at this time that the church is facing a lot of competition from other major players. We would expect that there will be result-oriented people that will be able to guide us in a way that we can be able to achieve our objective as an NGO or as a church who have a mandate to preach the gospel. So we are so much expectant, and this one cannot be achieved if you are not united. So one thing that you're looking at is result-oriented office of the General Assembly. The other thing that we are waiting for is that we are waiting for a united office that will not only drive to unite us, but them themselves will be united, because when you are united, when you are not united, then you cannot be able to achieve. And even the Bible says that two people cannot walk when they are not in agreement. So the first thing that we are expecting is for them to agree and be able now to work together to catapult this church to the expected levels of the Presbyterian family.
Thank you so much for
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And for us to have this conversation.
Welcome.